Thank you very much, Padmaji. Welcome to all the Divine Atma Jyotis. So let us continue our contemplation of Tattva Bodha based on the teachings by Prabhuji's videos. So we were in the second chapter of Tattva Bodha, Atma Tattva Viveka. So in that, so far we have seen 3 videos according to the schedule that we are progressing. So the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. And the essential focus of these videos so far has been to discriminate the self from the non-self. And that is the essence of these 3 videos that we have seen so far. And in that we have seen so far various precise discrimination logic, viveka, being given. And the first is the nitya and the anitya viveka. What is eternal and what is changing. In that we have also seen the distinction between the satya, mithya and the asatya. And we have also seen how the senses are not complete, and similarly what they report to the mind is also not complete. So they are limiting in nature, and the mind tends to color what is seen or heard or felt. So with this instrument, we have to learn how to discriminate. And we will be going deeper into this aspect today with the question, what is my essential nature? So maybe with that, let us open up our today's contemplation. So far we have seen questions up to number 4. So today, let us begin with this question. What is your essential nature? So like our previous sessions, each one can share in a short way, within 2-3 minutes, your understanding. And then we will continue the contemplation process. Before we begin our today's session, any particular questions or any comments anybody wants to make? All right. Thank you very much. Then shall we begin? Who would like to go first? So the question is, what is your essential nature? Or what is my essential nature?
I'll start.
Yeah, sure, Saravanaji.
So, yeah, as per this talk text, the essential nature of self points to Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat being the existence, which is like there is no question to it. I am here. That is the simplest thing to understand for me. And like I don't go and have to ask someone like, do you see me, or like, do you recognize me, right? So that nature that I am here, like I exist, is very easy. And Chit is the consciousness that I'm able to I'm aware of what is happening, right? And and it's very, again, this existence and awareness, I and I am, is like very obvious and easy, right? And the third one is where the difficult part is, which is with the Ananda, right? That is where it seems to be like missing. If I go deep and try to figure out why I'm doing whatever I'm doing, it usually points to seek happiness, right? And if I go and further explore the nature of that happiness, it's very um, temporary in nature, right? And as a result, um, that action, that cycle continues to repeat, right? Do more to get more happiness, to go, and always that happiness that I derive from outside, also see that it comes with its own opposites, right? First of all, I have to do something to get that, and that having to do is basically like I'm spending something, right? And it's not coming for free. And if I explore more, I realize that that which I'm seeking outside is the very essential nature of self. And because I'm unable to realize that, like, I'm going out. And the further study reveals that the reason why I'm not able to realize that from myself is because of uh, the chatter of the mind, the nature of the mind. And as long as the mind is active with the thoughts, it's like it basically hides the um, ananda of self being realized. And any upadhi like doing meditation or anything to do to calm down the mind reveals that ananda, right? And which is good that, okay, I am able to feel it.
Can I ask one clarification?
Mhm.
You just now mentioned that upadhi like meditation. Can you elaborate what you meant by that?
Yeah, using uh, a way to get something done to calm the mind.
So, what is your current understanding of what is upadhi?
Uh, uh, it's a something not like from outside I'm using.
Oh, okay. So, I think probably upadhi essentially means conditioning.
Conditioning,
What
okay.
you really mean is you're using meditation as a sadhana or as a tool, right? That's
Yeah,
what.
maybe I used the wrong term. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
there is another term. Okay, maybe yeah. Whatever I use from outside, right? Something that is not natural.
Something that you do in order
Yeah,
to come out of this.
yeah,
Yeah, like a tool.
yeah, like a tool. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Uh, okay. Mm, uh, yeah. So I can experience it by doing, say, meditation. But the point is that is not the goal of like being getting that sample of that ananda. And the goal is to remain in that state. If we can remain in that state always, right? Then that is I feel like one purpose that is basically I can say it as a purpose of this life to realize, like basically the self is realized completely. So yeah, I would like to stop there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Saravanan. Anyway, we'll come back to these questions. So let everyone speak. The intention of interrupting you was not to get diverted, but to clarify that upadhi means conditioning. So it is a conditioning that I have gotten into. So forgetting that, I am the true self, I start acting in the world as whatever the roles, male, boss, father, intelligent, all these are the upadhis. So the self has gotten into a wrong identity. When I use the word self has gotten into wrong identity, I, in my mind, getting into wrong identity due to the nature of the ego. That is conditioning.
Upadhi, yeah. Is it the term? Another term is what? Upasana or?
Upasana is for meditation.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Saravanan.
Yeah.
Okay, who would like to go next? Hari Om, Priyaji.
Hari Om, Vijayji.
We just began. So as you know, we've been going through the videos 4, 5, and 6, which deal with Atma Tattva Viveka. So we have taken up these questions to contemplate, to share our inner understanding. And today's first question that we have picked up is, what is my essential nature, or what is your essential nature? And Saravanan just now shared, and that is when you joined us. So we'll be going in the order that you would like to volunteer. So who would like to volunteer next to share your understanding?
Hari Om, Vijayji.
Hari Om, Satyaji.
Hari Om, everyone. So as per what Prabhuji was saying in the teaching, the essential nature of, my essential nature is Sat Chit Ananda, as Sharvanan ji mentioned. So existence, consciousness, and bliss. So I exist is something I can always say, and the world exists, or even a rock, a mountain, or a plant, an animal, everything exists. That is existence. And consciousness is even when I'm asleep, I know I exist. So that is consciousness. So existence and consciousness is common to every being. But then bliss is something we go in search for in the outside world. So bliss is our essential nature, but the only problem is the mind interferes. That is, we start searching for bliss in the outer world, whereas removing everything that is not will make us realize that we ourselves are bliss. So Sat, Chit, and Ananda is our essential nature, which we need not acquire. We need not go in search of it. We need not do anything to get it. In fact, undoing everything we already know. Maybe in a way undoing the upadhi, that is undoing the conditioning that we have been brought up. That will help in realizing that we are the self. In fact, the sun always shines. There is the sun, but the only thing is, how do we realize that we are the self? So whatever comes in between, between I and my realization, I think that again is upadhi. In fact, in one of the classes, Prabhuji was saying that there is this human child and society child and divine child. So human child is, what we are, and the society child is all the society's conditioning which has made the person we are. And in fact, the divine child is pure consciousness without any, conditioning or any imposition by the parents, by the society, by what all we have acquired. So by undoing everything, undoing the conditioning, what remains is the self. So that is our essential nature.
Excellent. So any particular experiences you would like to share? So this is the clarity or the understanding. In your day-to-day interactions, in your day-to-day dealings, do you have to remember, or how do you use this clarity?
In fact, most of the time what happens is we get entangled in the cycle of the world. In fact, however we are working, we are operating, how you operate is different from mine. So what is the difference? It is your conditioning which makes you you, and my conditioning which makes me how I am. So in the day-to-day life, what happens is we are generally acting from the mind. I always try to remember that, every action or reaction which happens, let it not come from the mind, let it come from the consciousness. So suppose I have taken the seat of consciousness, let me not leave my seat. And even momentarily, if I operate from the mind, okay, let me come back to my seat of consciousness. The more you divert from your state, or the more farther away you go away from your state of consciousness, in fact, at least because of Prabhuji, maybe we are at least able to realize the problem. Some people, they may not even realize, that is how they just go on in the cycle of suffering. So at least there is somewhere there is a point where the mind again gets alert that no, this is not how I have to behave, or this is not what it is. So for me, normally what I do is, whenever I feel that I'm trapped in the cycle of conditioning or cycle of this Maya or the world, I try to come back. Initially, it is with a lot of effort that I try to come back and sit in my state of consciousness. If I leave my seat, then I'm up to some trouble.
Excellent. Very nice. Thank you, Satyaji. Saravanan, you want to ask some questions?
Yeah. Actually, that question was good and right, which is something I face or fight every day, which is like I have this understanding, but then I am always active in the world, which is the next question maybe. Right, and the understanding of myself is always challenged, I feel, every moment to moment, and I immediately fall into the into the hole of or I feel being pushed into the hole where like someone else did not realize my effort, and they didn't understand me, and then like I get into the state of, okay, what should I do, right? Like how should I correct, and like, so that essentially that Ananda part was stolen for a moment. One thing, again, in theory, I try to apply is like, which is maybe it comes as part of Chit. I keep telling that like I'm complete. I'm Purnam. Purnam, that word I find it much stronger, closer to me. I keep saying that no, I'm complete. I don't need that certificate from the other, or like in any form, complete or incomplete, right? So I keep telling myself in theory again, right? But then like when I'm interacting, I keep falling into the trap, and then like I have to fight it to come out of it. But yeah, it is a changing nature, so definitely I do come out of it. But that when you fall and then like spend time and then get out, I feel like, okay, that time is the test or practical test of my theory being applied, and like how long I spend there and then get out, I feel like is what tells me like how deep is my understanding. Why am I not able to, why am I even falling into it and going through that suffering and then like come out? Right, yeah.
Very nice.
I think Sharananji, in the class which Prabhuji was he was mentioning about, if you get involved in the problem, you get entangled in the problem.
Yes.
So you become part of the problem then.
Yes.
And, there is nothing we can really do about it.
I lose my sleep actually. It just comes in my sleep, and like the thoughts start, and I'm like completely into it, and I try to figure out, I try, and I bring all the theory in the middle of the night. It's like, hey, I'm this, I'm not this, I'm this, and I just like wait for it to get over. But I don't know. So I that's why I said like I feel like I'm not in control of my thoughts, and it just comes and like takes over me, and it's like sometimes I feel like if it is graceful enough that it will leave me, and like I will come out. It's not because like of my own understanding of all these things, like I'm able to come out still.
Yeah, we have a fair understanding because of the classes and the teaching. But when it comes to the situation, we feel that is real.
Yes.
The reason is we become part of the problem because our mind comes into the picture. All the conditioning from our birth till now comes into the picture, and maybe we become part of the problem, and we try to maybe even increase the problem. But then what Prabhuji was suggesting was take a step back. Take a step back and look at the problem. Only then you will be able to solve it rather than becoming a part of the problem. So are you part of the problem or are you part of the solution? I think this one sentence, if we keep on thinking, I think that can maybe ease out things.
Right now, I'm just like, I just start playing my videos and start listening.
Very nice.
I know, because I keep telling myself like, hey, should I change? Why should I change? I shouldn't change because my intentions are like my nature is good, right? And I don't have to bend myself for change to prove to or someone else, because that outside object will keep changing, and like then like my own character is gone, right? If I'm doing certain things for some purpose, I think I should continue to do it if I believe that that is the right thing. So right now, I just go back and like start reading videos, listening to videos. Yeah, that's the essential nature in theory and in practice. What I find.
Very nice. Because between the essential nature and the worldly dealings, there is one, whatever the name you may want to give it, ego. So that identity, everything is a play of the identity. How strong the connection to the identity is how deeper the problem seems to be. So let's listen to others also. Let's see how our other satsangis are handling. Who wants to go next?
Vijayji, I would like to share few of my points.
Please. Yeah.
Honestly, completely, I have not watched the videos 5 and 6.
It doesn't matter. This is still question is.
Yeah, still like understanding the essential nature, and when it comes to the ego part, few what I have understood myself, I would like to share. See, to be honest, now only I am understanding what I am after these many days. So what is happening is, as Saravanji is telling, the object surrounding us keeps changing. So adjusting to the things and compromising to those things is bothering me. Why I should compromise for those things? Or is it because worldly needs should I compromise myself? Or I have understood what I am, and why I should compromise for all these things? Is this ego coming to the part, or I'm not taking a step back to compromise my essential nature? That is what I keep thinking always. I'm also facing the same problem what Saravanji keeps telling. Saying most of the time I keeps thinking, this is what I am, and all these days I was doing all these things. So should I do this or should not? Or should I go along with the others? If I don't go, what will happen? I think these points I have already discussed with you when I'm talking to you. Yeah, you can pour some light on these things, sir.
See, that is where Prabhuji gives one excellent example. Water is pure. When water is mixed with coffee powder, it feels as if now it has been contaminated.
Yes.
So that is where essential nature is not the nature that somebody tells you, oh, you are a very soft person, oh, you are a very intelligent person, you're very cruel. These are all observation of the upadhis or the conditionings are the way others perceive, or sometimes you yourself may also have such thinking. Oh, this is my nature. Say, for example, I'm very fearful when I need to talk to somebody. Like that, there are various things which can be all put together in the bucket of social conditioning. Okay. So therefore, the coffee powder hasn't really contaminated you. What is your essential nature? Your essential nature is that which is not changing nature. For example, when did somebody observe that you are very intelligent? Say, for example, maybe you solved one math problem and somebody said you are very intelligent. Maybe tomorrow, if another very tough math problem is given, I may not be able to solve it. Then the same person may call me, you're such a dumb person. Which means that that intelligence or that dumbness is a changing phenomena, depending upon the context of the situation that I am in. So therefore, essential nature here is that which is not changing, which is inherent in you, something that world did not give you. If the world hadn't taught you math, you won't know math. But I am is an essential nature. Nobody has to come and give you certificate that you exist.
Yes.
For you to know that I exist, no certificate is needed. And to know that I am aware also needs nobody else to come and tell.
Yes.
I know I can perceive. I know I understand. So all this is inherently there. The child is not taught the language. The child learns the language. That is the important distinction. The parents and people around are making sounds, and the child is the one which learns the language, which means the ability to learn, to know, to become aware is inherently there.
Yes.
Otherwise, the same child, if put into a Tamil family, will learn Tamil language. Telugu family learns Telugu, multiple languages. So like that, using such simple examples, to know, to be aware is your inherent nature.
Okay.
Sat and Chit and Ananda. Ananda because your true nature is infinite.
Yes.
And through that infinite nature, Ananda is inherently there.
Yes.
Object is not the one which is bringing Ananda. You feel that object is bringing Ananda. But that's where again the examples given by Prabhuji. The same object, chocolate, may not give Ananda to a diabetes person. But, for a small child, it may.
Yeah.
So what is really happening there? I do not have something, that lack, the feeling of lack for that moment when I'm consuming chocolate is removed. The lack is removed. So the lack, when the lack is not there, what is already there? That expresses as Ananda.
Yes.
It's like the cloud is in front of the sun. I feel the sun is hidden. But when the cloud has passed, sun is already there. Nothing happened to the sun.
Yes.
So that is essential nature. That which is not changing, that which is already there, that which is inherent, that which is not given by society, that which is not given by the biology, that which is already there. So therefore, using that example of water and coffee, water, nothing has happened. And you are of the nature of water in that example.
Okay,
Vijayji, this teaching or learning, it happens at the intellect level, right?
Which teaching?
What I learn is like basically going to my intellect. The intellect is getting something new, saying, okay. So this is the extra knowledge that I need to say.
You mean Sat, Chit and Ananda?
Yes, Yes.
No, that is recognition of Satchit Ananda through intellect. Not that you are learning something new.
No, I didn't, let's say I didn't know about this. Today
Yeah.
I come to know.
Even when you did not come to know, you may not know how to use that word Satchit and Ananda, but it is already there.
Okay. So maybe I didn't consciously, I wasn't aware of it, but I was aware of at least the Sat and Chit I was aware of.
Even you are aware, the very way you are using, see, I may not be aware of Satchitananda, but I'm aware of something else.
Yes.
Awareness. See, again, pointing is awareness.
Okay. No, maybe I will get my question then.
Yeah.
The question to me seems to be that even now, let's say I am aware of this, I got this knowledge, but what is separate is, I feel, is the ego, as you said.
Yeah.
Right? Will I be able to influence the ego with this knowledge that I got? How do I influence the ego? It seems to be that due to my past conditioning, the ego is very influential, right? And I think that ego mind pair is what is causing the disturbance.
Correct.
Right? And when I'm listening or reading, and when I'm in the group, I'm in a sattvic state, getting able to appreciate all this knowledge and do this thing. But the moment I get into the transactional world, I feel the ego mind is dealing with it, and the intellect is behind. Right? The intellect is maybe waiting to be considered in that time. If the intellect is considered, maybe I may not fall for that.
See, intellect again is part of the mind. Intellect in turn is using the content of the mind only. The mind is full of the societal content. It only uses that content. Somebody might have thought, don't give up. You always have to exert your identity, especially if, let's say, depending upon the condition of the society that we are born in. It's also prevalent in Western kind of cultures. Self-identity, the identity, you have to express yourself. That is impregnated very deeply. When that is impregnated deeply, intellect uses only that content to make decisions. So yes, this understanding that is coming in is information to the intellect to begin with. But as the intellect uses this to start discriminating, as it continues to do that, it deepens, and the revelation is that it is essential. Meaning it is not something that somebody else is giving to you. Satchit Ananda is not something that somebody is teaching you, like math. You see, math is something that you inculcate from outside. You kind of have to learn that from outside. So here you're only recognizing that this is my essential nature and everything else is non-essential, something that is changing. That discrimination ability is coming through the teaching of the Guru. Let's listen to others also, and let's come back, and then it'll otherwise only the three of us will be talking. Let's also listen to others. Yeah.
One second, Sharananji. I think for what you have said, I have one sentence to add. In fact, you are perfectly successful in identifying the problem. That is the one thing I would say, because if you identify that mind is something else and you are different, and if you know that your enemy is your mind, I think half the problem is solved. Because the moment you start identifying the mind as separate, that will take care of everything. And the solution for that, I feel, is use the thorn to remove the thorn. Use your mind to remove the mind. So whatever understanding we are making right now, we are trying to understand it at the intellectual level. So the intellect is the main thing which is trying to analyze things, which is trying to store everything into the memory, which is giving inputs to the mind. So let us use our intellect so sharply that we are able to use the intellect or the mind to remove the mind. So see, suppose for example, you are a man. Do you ever have, someone needs to tell you something, or do you listen to any satsanga or some classes to understand that? No. So in the way that this fact is deep rooted in you, if you slowly understand and sink into yourself that I am the self, I am bliss, nothing else can disturb me, then you will not have a doubt. Just like you are a man, you are bliss.
Okay. Yeah. I get that. Yeah, it's still not that deep. It's not. That is where the issue is.
And even I'm a man, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm an Indian, was conditioned over a period of time. It was not instantaneous. A child had to be taught, hey, wear chaddi, otherwise people will make fun of you. Haven't we seen? Little children run around naked. We make fun of them. And we teach them about their gender. So it is not something that got cultivated overnight. And as a period of time, as the biological changes happened, people started calling out the biological changes. So we got deep-rooted into those identities. So it's the same excellent point by Satyaji. Same intellect, which got deep-rooted in those identities, now using the clarity of the essential nature, it has to be undone.
That questioning needs to come. Go back to basics, question yourself, and then find your own answer and come out.
Explanation logic is being given. This is to use.
Maybe this list of questions itself is a good one to use in the situation to come over. Yeah.
Who wants to go next? Okay, we have only Kamaji, Shubhaji, and Padmaji. And Gayatri ji, what happened to Gayatri ji? She dropped, is it? Okay. Kamaji, would you like to go next?
No, Vijayji, I would prefer to listen to these conversations.
Okay. How about Padmaji?
Sir, I'll go after Shubha today.
Okay.
Because I'm just taking some medicines after that.
No problem. Yeah. Shubhaji?
Yes, sir. Based on my understanding, our essential nature is to be in bliss, but due to conditioning, we forget that. And as we discussed right now, that probably by having clarity in our life, we get back to undoing those conditioning and get back to our essential nature of being in bliss. So that is what I would say is my understanding of this question.
Excellent. How are you using this? Tell us your practical application. How are you able to use?
Okay, I have to say that I don't know if it is the right situation or right in this context. A few days back, I took the first dose of Covaxin. So we all know that Covaxin is not available.
Yeah.
So, see, the usual, based on our conditioning, it's usually the panic mode we get into after that due date.
Yeah.
So my friend also took along with me, and she was in a panic mode. Probably, if it was the usual nature, I would have also got into panic mode. But maybe because of all the, I'm trying to apply all these things in my life. So we always say, no, what has to happen will happen. So that came into my mind. So I was telling her, if we have to get the Covaxin second dose, we will definitely get it.
Hmm.
So I don't know if it is the right thing in this context,
Yeah.
but that things which you always put in your mind,
Hmm.
that, okay, things will happen. Essentially, this will happen. This will happen. So you don't have to worry. Ultimately, we will get this thing, is what I was telling her.
Hmm.
It did help her because she stopped getting into that panic mode. And in the process, even I was not getting stressed out that I'm not getting it. So ultimately, we did get it, and the problem was solved. So I don't know if that is the thing I
No,
applied.
excellent example. Excellent example. Many things that we can draw from here. So first of all, you told her to be peaceful. How did that make you feel like?
No, I felt good that I'm able to help somebody instead of making her situation worse.
Excellent. So there is a typical Buddhist saying. It can be from anywhere for that matter. It's like you can only offer what you feel inside.
Yeah.
And what you offer grows in you.
True.
In the context of anger, so first of all, anger is something that is burning you. And if you offer that, it will continue to burn you more and more. So excellent, Shubhaji. But in terms of connecting it to the essential nature, so here, you use the feeling that what has to happen will happen.
Our essential nature is to be in bliss, not to get involved in the situation and get carried away.
That is the usage that you did.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shubhaji.
Thank you, sir.
Padmaji?
Yes, sir. So what I understood is, for the questions, what is my essential nature? I understand that I am Brahman. The essential nature of the world and essential nature of God. If I have to talk about the essential nature of God, then it is Sat Chit Ananda. When I talk about my essential nature also, it is the same. It is only that the recognition, when it comes, then there is always bliss. The Sat and the conscious part is something we all know. That is our existence, which we know. The bliss part is what we keep searching for in the various materialistic way, and you cannot get it there. That is one of the understanding I got. The other thing is about upadhi, where upadhi I feel is the conditioning, where Prabhuji talked about that water example, which is true. But one question I had in that was, for example, our gender, or what we are in this life form, whether it's a man or a woman or a dog, where he gives the example that also. So I feel that doesn't that itself become a first hindrance to not recognize the self, is something that I felt. Because if we go by like, for example, they say that in Bhagavad Gita also it is said that you choose everything, right? What kind of the soul is the choosing the journey, what it has to go through in this lifetime, right? So according to that, you are choosing the parents, or whatever is the process. But the gender or the form that you take is also part of that, right? Part of that selection is what I understand.
Let's
So
clearly see,
sorry,
when
sir?
it is said that when he said that, you choose,
Hmm.
for example, based on the seed that I put now, the
Hmm.
fruit will naturally come. If I put a chili seed, the fruit will be chili. If I put a mango seed, the fruit will be mango. So I have to be conscious of what seed I'm putting is what is being said there, that you choose. When can you choose properly? When you're aware. So therefore, the body is an instrument. What kind of a body form that I am in right now? That is based on the past karma. Whatever the deed that was done,
Hmm.
based on the current body and the current family and the current circumstances, all have come about.
Hmm. Yeah.
Was it a conscious choice? Again, that is up to me to realize that. Am I conscious right now in each and every action, in each and every activity? Am I doing with the attachment to the fruit of the action, or am I unattached? That choice is available only in the current moment. Done is done. And what is done, based on that, what will come, will come. So,
Yeah, that is that part I know. I mean, I understand that because I mean that is how I apply it to my own life now. Like now I have a statement where I say to everything that comes is whatever comes to me is only good and is very essential for me, is what how I take it now.
yeah.
And in some ways I have started saying that to my son as well, because then life becomes a bit easier when you know that whatever comes to you is only for your good. Then there is a different I think perspective itself to view it. You are not in contradiction to it, or you are not against it, so you tend to easily accept it, and then you tend to be more of the part of the solution rather than going into the problem. Even if you temporarily go in, it's easier to step back if you believe that it is for your good. So I think that
Therefore,
is
the question you brought up is the instrument a limitation? No, instrument is because of past karma, and instrument is giving me lessons so that it can go back to the completeness state. The realization of the completeness is the essential purpose of the instrument. Instrument is not the hindrance. Instrument is the wonderful gift of the Ishvara for whatever the experiences that will enable for evolution.
No, I'm not talking about the instruments, sir. For me, I am feeling that, see, when we talk about conditioning, till now I was under the belief that conditioning is something that you get from people around you from the time you are born, say from your family first, say from your parents first, then family, then if you're start going to school, it's coming from all of that places, right?
Yeah.
But the form itself, like there are certain beliefs and conditioning associated with the forms that the world gives you, right? Like
Correct.
for example, if you are a female, you are told to be in certain way depending upon your the family, whatever they have the views about that particular gender or form. So you are being given that conditioning. So I feel that that is very associated with the form that you take birth in, right? For example, it could be anything, animal, whatever. You associate certain things with the form. So that is what is my question. That is that itself not a hindrance, because we behave in this world based on our forms to a large extent, because that also prescribes our duties and our karmas.
So let us differentiate. There is a biological conditioning and there is a societal conditioning. Biological conditioning is also conditioning. It is also upadhi. That is why the Guru's teaching is to realize that, see, that's why it starts with, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not even the intellect. See, it is going from what is the most deepest form of conditioning, which is the body. Body-based thinking is deep-rooted. Then comes the societal. It's a little more subtler. This one, to get rid of this conditioning, is not very easy. It is very very deeply rooted, no? But still it is conditioning.
Okay.
Conditioning is not the limitation. Only through the limitation, you realize what is unlimited. If there was no form, how can you be aware of the formless? If there was no sound, how can you be aware of the silence?
Silence, correct.
If there was no misery, how can you be aware of the all-pervading bliss?
Yeah, contrast is essential. Yeah, that is something.
Because the mind is the one which is asking the question, no? Is
Okay.
it?
Yeah, this point is clear. I also had one more thing. When we say I am not the intellect, I also have an understanding that intellect in its purest form, when it is not having the veil of the ego or whatever else is lifted, I think intellect is also the one that is going to help you realize the self, is what is my understanding to a certain extent.
Satyaji gave a wonderful example. Use the intellect for what? To remember the discrimination and the teachings of the Guru, to remove the thorn called ego. Ego is worldly conditioning. And now, by using the discrimination tool given to the intellect by the Guru, that your essential nature is Satchit and Ananda, remove all other conditioning. In the sense, there is remove means what? Become aware that that is non-essential. Use it when you need to. Don't use it when you don't need to. And like Prabhuji always says, use the ego to do well in the world, but don't get used by the ego.
Yeah, but aren't ego and intellect two separate things?
Correct.
Because
Correct.
when I say intellect, I don't mean the ego part, because I feel that the intellect is the one that has enabled you to learn all those languages as a child, where
Correct.
you are very pure. So
Correct.
I think right now the intellect is not pure, like it is being superimposed or whatever by the ego, and all this conditioning is where it is not performing as it should as an intellect.
Correct.
So,
For example, when you put your hand to the fire for the very first time, that it burns, that when that information is not there, then intellect cannot discriminate. So intellect to discriminate the content of the mind is what it uses. It only acts on what is there. And if the content of the mind is only full of the societal conditioning about me and you and the discrimination and such kind of let's call it as human level information, then the intellect cannot operate. That is where the divine level information or the Guru's knowledge or the Guru's realization or the divine knowledge is the higher level knowledge, Vedantic knowledge.
Can I add one word here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Padmaji, when you were saying about intellect, my personal understanding is like intellect is like a CPU. It is like a process. It is neither pure nor impure. So whatever it takes from the outside world, it is trying to process and give you the essence of what is happening. So if you give information about, if you are a part of this Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasa, the information which you are pouring into the intellect is something which is, essential to know your essential nature, and thereby the intellect processes it and, finally leads you to the self. If you give it information which is only nothing else other than, conditioning or, the worldly things, that is what it processes. So basically, intellect is like a CPU where you use it as a very powerful tool, either to get out or to get in. And intellect, as you said just now, you are saying intellect, you don't combine it with ego. In fact, mind has different parts.
Yeah, that's why
intellect also is a part of the mind. Ego is a part of the mind. And it is like ahankara and mamakara. When you say, I am, that is ego, ahankara, and this is mine, that is mamakara. So all this again is a part of the mind only. Ego is part of the mind, intellect is the part of the mind. So we will use every instrument which is given to us, because only through intellect you can again know the self. Otherwise, you can just, you cannot realize that you are the self unless you use the intellect. So intellect, the mind, the ego, everything has to be used perfectly as a tool. That means you will use it as a boat, you will go there and you will leave the boat. Use it as a thorn to remove the thorn. Finally, you realize that you are the self. And, you know, that is where the whole intellect should be sharpened by Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasa. Intellect, whatever you give it, it will process.
Yeah, that was also to a large extent my understanding, because I feel that after I think a year now into Bhagavad Gita and all these applications to a large part in my life, I have seen that the way my thoughts come is also changed now. Like, and the
And one more thing, Padmaji, one thing I had a similar doubt with Prabhuji once. I asked him, you say, I mean, everything is, I mean, I am Shiva, Shivoham. That means I am the self. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect. And then you say everything is Brahman. That everything also includes mind, body, and intellect. So are these not two contradictory statements that you say I am Shiva and then you say everything is Shiva? To that, what Prabhuji was saying was, initially in the first stage of contemplation, you need to understand that neti, neti, neti. This is not me, this is not me, this is not me. I am not my body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect. I am pure consciousness. Once you sink in, or once you establish yourself in the fact that I am the self, then you will realize that your self is not limited. It is not Shiva, it is Brahman. Shiva is individual consciousness and Brahman is universal consciousness. So from Shiva, from Shivoham, you will expand internally to the whole world. That is universal consciousness, Brahman. So then Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. So from Shivoham to Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. Then you feel that you are not different. As we were just now talking about, I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. But somewhere you again have to go to the concept that I am everything. In me, I am in everything. That's universal consciousness. Then you will not feel limited. Then you will not feel that your ego is trying to destroy you. That you will not feel that ego is your enemy. Everything will be in sync and everything is consciousness, Brahman.
Padmaji, there was a question about Vedanta, and that's what I brought up on the screen right now.
Yes, sir. I read that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is what I wanted to. I wanted to ask you this information also, where I can find that videos on that Paravidya, and all. If Prabhuji has shared any talk about it, I wanted to go through that.
Yeah. To your question, no, the most important part is here. See, Upanishads are mantras teaching Paravidya. But the same Upanishad is considered as Aparavidya. They chant those mantras without realizing the meaning. But when he understands that I am the essence or the innermost meaning of the mantras, then it becomes Paravidya.
Then the knowledge is also dropped.
So which means that use the gnana given by the Guru as a boat, and then when you cross over, then naturally it will drop. So it is not something that one needs to plan for. It is something that cannot be planned for. It is not about in another 2 months I will cross over. It's not like that.
Yeah, that is what, sir. Actually, till I don't know, maybe till last month sometime, before we started this Tattva Bodha and all, I used to think that ego is something, my biggest enemy or something like that. Yeah. And as I'm progressing, I'm understanding that it is all essential and who I am is because of that also, I feel. So
Yeah.
everything has contributed is what I feel. So I don't essentially, see it as a hindrance or anything. I think it's a process. I feel it will gradually happen. It's not like, uh, one sudden day, everything you can drop and, because one thing I have understood is the mind cannot be forced to do anything.
Yeah.
And it is very difficult. The moment you force, you also experience certain things because of that forcing,
Yeah.
which I had initially experienced during my meditation days.
Yeah.
And I think I had shared with you also. You experience then physically also some of the things because of forcing the mind.
Yeah.
So I think it's been a process for me. So I am good with it. I am not into now. Now I don't want to like, although my search is for self-realization, but I think I don't want to force it. I am like, okay, let it come when I am ready for it, like, so
Yeah.
that I can embrace it well, rather than, it's otherwise before it was like, no, I have to get it, I have to get it. Even the meditation, because that was really difficult for me to meditate. And I believed that it is going to do great things for me physically and in all levels. So I would like rather chase it. So I think now I'm not chasing anything. So that is good. I'm just waiting and searching. That's all.
Let's please see this picture again.
Yeah. This picture is my go-to picture all the time.
So even this I want has to drop.
Yeah,
Then naturally the
it will happen. Yeah.
so it's like a flowering.
Yeah.
We cannot force it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions or any points you want to mention, Padmaji?
No, sir. I think even for me, when Saravanan-ji posed that question also, I think I just wanted to tell him that only, that I feel that it's a process. It's a process of that will come slowly. It cannot happen, I think, immediately. And most of it, like, I think he's doing right now what I used to do, like, like chasing and doing that sort of thing. It's interesting to see that also, because I have been there. But now I think I have learned to, like, okay, let it come naturally, because I'm more at peace that way. Otherwise, yes, reading various things helps, but I also think that sometimes too much reading, like, I have a processing mind. Like, I will keep on processing whatever comes my way. I will read, and I'll keep trying to evaluate it at various levels. So that has kind of reduced now. Even if I read it, I will not take everything as such. I know now how to filter it also. So I think that will also happen, I think, for him naturally.
Yeah. So our, one of the friend and one of the enemy is the ego.
Yeah.
Ego can manifest in many subtler ways.
Mm.
So the ego that I understand something itself can be very elusive. So at the end of the day, therefore, masters always say one thing: when the ego has dropped, that state is something that cannot be discussed or something that cannot be described. It's something to experience and be in. So all along, as long as I am truthful, as long as I am aware that this has happened, and this is whether it is the play of the ego. Did I become jealous? Did I get hurt? That when somebody questioned me, all these are very subtler things. So that is why the constant watching over using the discrimination power given by the Guru, and to keep going back to the Guru's, more than what the Guru says, how the Guru is the important aspect to always keep in the mind. So for example, I always remember one wonderful story that I witnessed with Vinay Guruji. In one of the class, he has a certain process where he makes, he usually picks in one of the individual and makes them do certain things in front of the class. That is bring out a certain realization to that person and to the class. And it so happened that this person next day came with her husband and one grown-up child, and started yelling in front of everybody to Guruji, saying that you insulted me in front of the class. You made me say that so many times. You think I'm a dumb person. And then this husband was using the choicest of the words. And the son was, ready to kind of, Guruji was probably about 68 or 70 at that time. He was willing to even almost probably go and hit him. Okay, so like that, they were yelling, screaming, and all that right in front of the rest of the class. They were almost like 70 plus people. And, we all, there were so many others. This always brings to my mind the story of Ananda and Buddha and that old lady.
Yeah.
Like Ananda, others, who are deeply connected with Guruji were feeling very angry, wanted to stop them, because we knew what was the purpose of that particular session and why it had to be done that way. But Guruji kept on asking all of us to be peaceful, and he was, like not at all reacting. Was like how, like that expression on Buddha's face was. And after some time, of course, when there was no reaction from Guruji, that family went away, and the class continued like how it continued. And at the end, Guruji wrote a letter. He wrote a letter saying that, this is how he addressed that lady. Amma, I do these classes to help one come into their essential nature, to realize that peace is the essential nature, to realize that truth is the essential nature. However, the approach I have used may have hurt you, but that has never been the intention of the approach. So please forgive me if the approach has hurt you. However, if you are still willing to be part of the session, I am here to serve you. He wrote that letter and he signed it. All the others who were there kept on telling him, no, Guruji, it is not needed. You are not at fault. That lady has to realize. But he just wrote that letter and gave it to one person who was connected with that lady to give it to her. So our ego can act in many ways. And the Guru's conduct is the true mirror to always calibrate against.
Yes.
So to talk about ego and to say that the ego is the one which comes out is all easy. However, to put it into practice in the given moment and every moment, and to realize the play of the ego is why satsanga and Guru's words are constantly needed. So even today, Prabhuji says, he never answers the question, are you realized? No Guru ever answers that question. but all that Guru says is, I continue to serve you. I continue to work for you. Kamaji, would you like to share anything from your perspective about these questions?
No, Vijayji. No, Vijayji, I don't have. I'm just listening. So,
Okay.
Coming back to that ego point, I just like that is something which is running on top of my head. I think if that ego is still there, believe beyond a point, it basically blocks the realization.
Yeah.
Right. And if you realize that ego is not there to go and claim that like I have realized. Right. So the ego is the one who wants to claim it.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it, right? That's how I sometimes keep thinking like maybe I have to tame this ego. It has grown to an extent, like to a level with whatever I've been doing. It's like way high and like to my scale. And until it comes down, I'm not going to. This knowledge is not going to merge in me as the outcome. It is
Yeah.
going to stay separate. And I feel the wall that allows this knowledge to merge is the ego. And it has to become weaker and weaker to an extent, not like completely in the sense. It's needed to do the basic stuff. Okay, maybe, right? But it's, but the level where it is because of all this intellect, as Padmaji was saying, oh, I have studied this, I am working in this, as this, so and so. It has taken the ego to a level, right? And sometimes I feel that is that itself like being obstruction to get this knowledge to become one with me, to expose myself. And I see this as a sheet that is covering my true self nature.
Yeah.
And that sheet needs to be opened up a little bit.
Yeah. See, that is why even the one who insults me is my guru. That guru has made me aware that I have this ego position.
That because I took it as an insult. That is
that person may or may not be in our way of traditional way of looking at it, may not be a guru, but that guru is the one who enabled me to realize that, oh, I still have the ego position.
Sir, I want to add something. I don't know if my understanding is correct. Maybe you can say something if you feel otherwise. But I feel that initially when you are maybe small, ego is also something that offers you a little bit of protection in the outside world where you are functioning. I think otherwise there will be no discrimination as such from the beginning for you, right? Like what sir always says about a baby.
Yeah.
Like a baby will not have any discrimination who to mingle with, who to not mingle with.
Yeah.
But there are some negative thoughts or actions that you would want to keep away from, to keep yourself safe and protected. So I think to some extent ego is always helpful as well as you grow up. But maybe maybe it just develops, like you said, beyond a point without our knowledge, because we are not aware of that discrimination, like who are we and which is the ego part and all that. Maybe it just gets uh, uh, multiplied into something else.
Correct.
So yeah, so I feel like that. So that's why I have stopped seeing it as something bad. Maybe the conditioning also that we get initially, like based on our physical body, is also offering some kind of protection initially. That is our family way of maybe protecting us from certain
But
things.
that's a very low scale ego needed to what if I have
No,
to take myself.
that is what we start with. But
Yeah, but
maybe, going forward, it becomes too much. For example, like you said, you get a job, again, you have a boost. Then you get some education, you get a boost. If you get a promotion, then there will be another addition to it. Like that, it keeps adding. Maybe with
where
the
on a scale of
house,
100, let's
we
say,
can keep.
if a rating of 10 is good enough, but if the ego is at like 90 plus, that means like you are way off. So I cannot say that like this is needed for me right now to operate in this world. Otherwise, the world will just like bulldoze me or like push me into it, right? And like I'm trying to keep this as a covering to ensure like I stay alive in this world, right? That is the kind of thing that the society is promoting, right? You
There is
need
a beautiful story that is coming to my mind. Some of you may
Vijay,
know it.
Vijay, I would like to add few points.
Yeah, yeah.
Where Saravananji was now speaking about the thing. At that moment, like how he was scaling like out of 10 to 3 or 90%. By that time, our intellect will help us to discriminate the effect of ego, like how Prabhuji is telling, where it is required, we have to use the ego and we have to leave it. Like only the thing is self realization is only important, and the essence of the life is to understand and be in bliss. That is what I would like to share. See, the conditioning is from our birth is always we are brought up in conditioning only. The always the upadhis are there. I don't tell that these upadhis always hinder us to understand. I mean, they don't help us to understand the self realization. They do help us, but only thing is our intellect will help us to understand the self realization and the conditioning. Am I correct?
Right. See, for example, this seems like a very contradictory game. For example, as a little child, okay, there is no ego that has been developed, and the little
True.
child is completely blissful. But it can
Yes.
be called as a bliss out of unawareness. Whereas
Yes.
a child like Jada Bharata is also blissful even as a child, or a child like maybe Shankaracharya may be blissful even as a child, out of complete clarity at that level, that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, and I'm not the intellect. So ego, you have to develop the ego for usage of the world. You're
Correct.
useful in the world only as a teacher, only as a mother, only as a cook, only as a cleaner, only as a driver. You're useful to the world in a certain ego position only. But like you rightly said, use the ego to serve the world, because who you are serving is you only.
Yes.
But never get used by the ego.
Correct.
And like Padmaji also said, it's a protective mechanism.
Correct.
One snake was told by a saint that, why are you biting? You are being very cruel. And that snake somehow felt very deeply what the saint said, and it stopped biting. After many days, the saint was passing through that area. He saw that the snake was now beaten up, full of blood and everything. He asked out of wonder, what happened? you said, biting is cruel, and I realized and I stopped. Did I ever ask you to stop hissing?
Correct.
So realize your true nature is that of Sat, Chit and Ananda, and the whole world is you only. But the world is still functioning through the conditioning that it has. Somebody coming to you with a knife to stab, self-protection is important. Or if somebody is trying to beat somebody, protecting that other person is important. Guru never taught to remain lame. Guru is teaching, act in the clarity.
Correct.
Drop the ego doesn't mean that, oh, whatever happens, let them beat somebody. Okay, let them beat me. Guru is teaching, act out of clarity. Why are you protecting? Who should you protect? See, the instrument through which you can realize the self is this body. If this body itself is not protected, if somebody is under threat, why did Guru Gobind Singh stood up and take up the sword against the Aurangzeb and other invaders? Is because of this clarity, not out of contempt for Aurangzeb. Why did Krishna teach fight the war? Not out of hatred for Duryodhana, but the actions of Duryodhana had to be stopped.
Correct. Yes, Vijay.
All right. Is there any other point anybody wants to bring up? All right. Then we will end our today's contemplation. Padmaji, can you please help us with the closing prayers?
Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead me from untruth to truth, darkness to light, impermanence to permanence. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That is complete. This is complete. When completeness is removed from completeness, what remains is complete. When completeness is added to completeness, totality remains complete. Om, peace, peace, peace. Nanu, nanenbadu, nanalla, ideha manabuddhi, nanalla, Sachidanandatma, Shiva, Nanu Nane, Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am not the body, mind, intellect. I am pure consciousness, Shiva Swarupi. Atmadarshanam, Brahmadarshanam, Brahmadarshanam, Satyadarshanam. Recognition of self is recognition of the whole. Recognition of the whole is the truth.
See, to the point that Satyaji made, no? To begin with, recognition of the self through the neti, me. And then Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, recognition of the whole, that everything is self only. And that is the one which is completeness.
Om Trambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim pushtivardhanam urvarukamiva bandhanan mrityormukshiyamamritat. We worship the three-eyed one, who is fragrant and who nourishes all. Like the fruit falls off from the bondage of the stem, may we be liberated from death, from mortality.
Again, what a wonderful analogy. Like the fruit falls off from the bondage of the stem. When does the fruit fall? When it is ripe.
Ripe. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. May all beings be happy, healthy, and peaceful.
Hari Om. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hari Om, sir. Sir, can I have just 2 minutes with you alone? Is
Yeah,
it okay?
sure. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.